All right, I am here with my partner, Mindy, and we work together on a lot of deals, but despite that, we still end up on opposite sides of the spectrum on a lot of topics in real estate. There are so many ways to do real estate, which is fun. That's part of why it's exciting. But today we wanted to go through a little bit of a real estate this or that. So let's get started with our first this or that topic.
Ooh, I pick?
You pick.
All right. Okay. First one we'll talk about today is long-term versus short-term, medium-term properties.
Long term, all the way. Always.
Short-term, midterm.
Yeah. Okay. Why?
Okay. Short-term is anything under a 30-day rental. So Airbnb, VRBO, any of those platforms. Midterm is medium rental, anything over 30 days, under a year. And both of those are furnished. And then do you want to explain long-term?
Yeah. So long-term rentals are what you traditionally think about with rental properties. So you generally are putting a 12-month lease in place to start. Sometimes you do end up going month to month, but the idea is that these are folks who are moving in and this is their primary residence for the foreseeable future. It's not going to be a furnished unit. They're just moving into the apartment itself. They're bringing their furniture and that's where they live full time until life takes them elsewhere.
That's right. Okay, so I'm advocating for short-term and medium-term because when you compare that to a long-term rental, you can really boost your profit. We've all stayed in Airbnb and they're awesome, but you pay a lot more than you would just to live for 1 or 2 nights. So short-term rental, you can have a higher profit margin. Medium-term rentals are a sweet spot in the middle where it's a travel nurse or a travel corporate person and they want to just pay a little bit more and maybe sometimes the company's paying for it. So I think you can make more profits in general with more work on a short term.
Yeah, more work is the key there, and I think that's the big deciding factor for me. I love long-term tenants because I can put a long-term tenant in, and if everything's going well in my units, which usually they are, I try really hard to take care of them, I can go 6 months to a year without even hearing from them about anything. Nothing really comes up. There's no hospitality side to it. I always joke that I am not a hospitable person. I think you are. I'm a nice person, I'm a friendly person, but I just don't want to feel like I'm waiting on somebody. The hospitality industry, like hotels versus long-term rentals, those are very different animals. So while I do agree you can make more money, more bang for your buck each month in short term and medium term, you're also putting more work in. So I think the return on my energy is a lot lower in a long-term rental, and that's why I really enjoy it. There's also less risk. I think there's more risk with short and midterm, especially short term, with all the different cities and municipalities trying to decide for themselves how to work those. Sometimes you end up with higher taxes, or certain cities just ban them altogether. And that's not happening with long term rentals. So there's less risk in long term and less effort, I would say.
You're right. When we set up our last midterm rental, we weren't sure if we would get a tenant right away or if it would just be crickets and nobody would call on the listing. So you're kind of convincing me, but I think I'll stick with mine and you can stick with yours and
Fair enough.
they can let us know if they feel differently.
Yeah. Let us know in the comments. Where do you fall?
Cool.
All right.
Are you doing the next
one? Yeah. Okay, let's see. Next, this or that question. Emerging versus established markets. All right. So I think this one's interesting. To me, you could take this a couple ways, but emerging is a place where maybe it's been struggling for a little while or it hasn't been the most popular neighborhood, but you're starting to see that it's on the upswing versus established is like, everyone wants to be there. It's a hot neighborhood. The school district is awesome. All types of people from, young professionals up to families want to be there. And emerging might be like it's starting to get some young professionals or young couples. And maybe the school district's not there, but there's business development around the area and there's a cool brewery or a cool restaurant nearby that just popped open. So yeah, emerging versus established. Where do you fall?
I'm definitely established. So established would be a metro area that's boundaried on all sides by other districts or school districts or townships or cities. And this one has no more land. So you're going to get a great school district, a good area. People want to live there, has the amenities. But rents kind of keep going up because it is an established market. So and the school district is good. So I'm that way all the way.
Yep. I do invest in established markets, and there's a lot of strength there, obviously. I think there's lower risk, but I enjoy occasionally getting into some of the emerging pockets, the emerging neighborhoods. So not like a completely new untested market altogether, but a place where maybe things around it are pretty solid and you're starting to see that bleed in, trickle into this particular neighborhood or pocket of the area. So I've had a couple rental properties where I was able to get in while prices were still pretty low per unit. And then rents were starting to increase because things in the area were developing. I was able to put a little bit of sweat equity into the buildings and bring them kind of up to speed for the new tenants who are coming to the area. And I really like cash flow, so I was getting good cash flow because that purchase price was low, but then also I had that cherry on top of really good appreciation as what I was hoping would happen with the emerging market did happen. So it's a cool mix of getting both cash flow and appreciation, but I think it's higher risk. Like, you have to really be looking and paying attention and hoping that you're betting right on that emerging market.
I definitely pay more in an established market, for sure, for the property. So
Absolutely.
pros and cons to both.
Absolutely.
Okay. Am I next?
Next question.
Okay. We didn't shake these very well.
I know.
They don't shake very well. Ooh, good one. Okay. Cash flow versus appreciation.
Cash flow.
Appreciation. 1,000%.
Yeah.
Okay. Why do you like cash flow?
So despite what I was just saying, where those emerging markets can give you some appreciation but that I said is the cherry on top. For me, I got into real estate to build up passive income, well, as passive as it can be, which I don't think real estate's fully passive in most cases, but it's much more passive than the 9 to 5 corporate job I used to work. So I wanted to be building up investments that were consistently paying me month in and month out so that I could replace my income and leave the 9 to 5 much earlier than if I was building up investments that over 5, 10, 15, 20 years made enough to get me out. So I've always enjoyed the cash flow more, and I see the appreciation as the cherry on top.
Okay. All right. Fair. I think appreciation was where I really wanted to buy a very good building, very good property in an established market, and I felt safe that it was going to go up over time and appreciate. Maybe I was patient and could wait on the cash flow, the monthly rent. It didn't quite matter to me if I made $20 a month or $200 a month per door. Um, but I got really excited about the appreciation. And then also, it's really fun to once a year, once a quarter, just go in and look at the value of the property and maybe like change the spreadsheet up just a little bit. And it's like, okay, it's going up. It's cool. Someday, if I decide to sell this, I'll make more money. So
Right.
appreciation all
Yeah.
the way.
Yeah.
Cool.
I think the cool thing about real estate is you can get both, but I think you have to pick one to focus on, especially up front,
Hmm.
and really know which way you're focusing and why, right? Because you and I come at it from different angles and with different intents of what our real estate portfolio will do for us, and that's why we have these differing opinions about it.
Right. And it's also a factor of where you're at in life, where you're what age you are. Are you working a full-time job? Are you about to retire? Are you, some funds to put into a deposit on XYZ type property? So there's a lot that goes into it. It's a very personal choice, like you said.
Absolutely.
Cool.
All right.
What's next?
Next one. Turnkey versus BRRR.
Oh, gosh. Turnkey.
Remember? How do we ever partner on anything?
Okay.
For those who don't know, BRRR stands for the BRRR, lots of R's, stands for buy, rehab the building, rent it out, refinance the building, and then repeat that process. So the whole idea behind BRRR is that you're buying something that's not really up to where it needs to be. You're going to put in the money and the time and the effort to get it back to where it needs to go. And so hopefully you build enough equity to be able to refinance out some, if not all of your money. The whole intent behind BRRR is to force appreciation to the point that you have very little to no money left in the deal, allowing you to recycle your money rather than leave a 20 to 25% down payment in every single building.
Right. And turnkey is just buying a property in a market where it's ready to go. You don't have to do any renovation to it. You're going to either it maybe already has a tenant in it and it's fine, or you're going to place a tenant and go from there. So, uh, I like turnkey because I am A, generally lazy in terms of renovation, and B, when I started, I didn't know how to do any of that, and it
Mhm.
really made me nervous to think, I've gotta find the right roofer, I've gotta find the right kitchen cabinet person, I've gotta do all these things, so
Mm.
turnkey for me was kind of an easy choice in the beginning, and then now as I have more experience, it's more of a, sure, I could do it, I could do the BRRRR, but let's do turnkey and just be more patient,
Mhm.
I guess, so I see both sides.
Yeah. I think your approach where you enjoy the turnkey, it's a little lower effort on the upfront side, really matches up with your desire to focus on appreciation in your rental portfolio. Whereas I'm looking more so for cash flow and to build up units relatively quickly so that I could get out of my 9 to 5, which I was able to do. And so the BRRRR process really helped me do that, but it is much higher effort. And I definitely went through some very fun rehab processes. Fun.
Always a good swag. Yes. I would say majority of people it's hard to find a property these days that makes sense even on a turnkey from a turnkey,
Yeah.
thought process. So, sometimes you do have to do the BRRRRs and renovations to drive the value to make the numbers work
Mhm.
in a hot market.
Yeah. But the nice thing is that there's always something out there, and we get to choose. Yeah, you might have one that you prefer, one way you prefer, but you can flex so much in real estate based on what's going on in the market. So it's good to understand all of these concepts and the different ways you can do things. Pick the thing that suits your lifestyle better, but understand that you have ways to flex as the market changes to make sure that you can keep investing.
Love it. Love it. What's next? My turn? I
See?
don't remember. Real estate, full-time versus side hustle. Uh, Side hustle.
Full time.
Full-time.
Yeah.
Okay, why full-time?
I think, I see why this is different for everyone. I mean, all of these, I see why they're different for everyone. For me personally, I really truly enjoy real estate. I think that the buildings are fun. I think the renovation process, even when it's crazy frustrating, is still pretty fun. I enjoy having a tangible assets. I think it's just such a great industry to be in because we're not going to innovate our way out of needing places for people to live, at least not anytime soon.
I can't see it. I can't see it yet.
Not anytime soon. So I really truly enjoy real estate. And I also enjoy time freedom and flexibility. So I was very much on a path as soon as I could to get real estate working for me so that I could be doing it full time rather than being at a 9 to 5 because of all those benefits and the fact that I do truly enjoy it. And it gives me the flexibility and time freedom that I want for spending time with my kids, for travel, all of that good stuff.
Love it, love it. When I first thought about real estate, it was always from a side hustle perspective. I had a full-time, career and job, and it was it was the way in of, "Hey, let me get one property or one building, and let's just see how much effort it takes and how much" a turnkey one, right?
Mhm.
In a great market. Uh And then how much of that can I do? Because my interests are wide and I always wanna learn different things, so I wasn't quite sure, will I be doing this full time or is it just gonna be a nice kind of like side hustle hobby that would give us a little more money monthly to go on a nice extra vacation per year. So, I've always thought of it from a side hustle perspective, and I think, especially when you are financing your properties with a bank, mortgage broker, they wanna see that they wanna see that career income,
Mhm.
especially in the beginning when you don't have experience to bring to them and don't have a business loan.
That's true. Once you flip to real estate full time, there are a lot of things you could do when you had your full time job that you can't do anymore. You become, unbankable in some cases, and you really have to change the way you look for funding and the way you prove that you're a solid borrower to a lender. Again, pros and cons to everything, but I think it comes down to lifestyle and interests. I don't think anyone should be in real estate full time if they don't really, really enjoy it.
Right, and you have to have that base, that foundation of having some solid knowledge of the how what you're doing and making some money to support yourself. We all wanna So far, we all wanna eat lunch and
Yeah.
dinner every day. So
That's the best.
just gotta buy those groceries. Yeah. Every single day.
Every day.
So what next?
All right, last one. Ooh, pets or no pets? I know where you fall.
We're gonna end on this controversial topic. No pets.
Pets.
They are really cute. I have 2
Yes.
dogs that are amazing.
Yes, of
But
course.
for my properties, it is no pets.
Mhm.
And almost every year I question whether that's the right decision because obviously so many people love their animals
Mhm.
and want to bring them to where they live. But uh, if you're doing a 4-family building and it's kind of a little bit like noise can be an issue,
Mhm.
the pets add to that. Damage can be huge. The cleanup around the property. So it's just kind of one of those factors that we said in the beginning. Let's just take it out of the equation.
Mhm.
What say you?
All of that's completely fair. I do agree. All of those things do come up. However, I think there are enough ways to mitigate most of that risk, and we know real estate always has risk involved. There's enough ways to mitigate those risks, and then on top of that, if you mitigate those risks well, you tend to get tenants who want to stay longer because there are a lot of landlords out there who don't wanna have pets, or it's just harder to find a spot that makes sense for them and their pet. So I think that my tenants who bring pets stay much longer. I think I've got an average of about 2.5 years per tenant right now, but I think the people who have pets probably stay 4 years at least.
Wow.
I definitely see a difference in longevity of a tenant when they have a pet. So I do have small multifamily. So I have come across those issues that you've mentioned, but I have a pretty tight pet addendum in my lease that explains exactly what's expected of the tenant and how they have to maintain the house, the yard, everything. So I can let them know if something's not going right and require them to fix it. It also has a clause in there that says we can request that the pet no longer be at the unit at any point. I've never had to do that, but it is the kind of going nuclear approach if it really doesn't go well. But I also focus on having units that can withstand pets. So I don't do carpet in my units. It's all like wood floors or tile. I don't see a lot of issues so far with pets, other than maybe it's just a little bit dirty, but I take a pet deposit, a non-refundable pet fee, I'll call it, up front as well. So that helps cover any additional cleaning costs at the end. And they're still required to do the cleaning at the end. So if they don't,
Mm,
I can also withhold from their security deposit. So I've got a lot of layered ways to try to mitigate the risks, but I love pets personally, and then I like the fact that my tenants with pets tend to stay longer.
nice. Have you had an incident yet where a pet has like destroyed anything that's been way more than the security
No,
deposit?
knock on wood.
Knock
Now
on
I
wood.
jinxed myself, but no, no issues like that yet.
That's good.
The biggest issue I've had has been tenants not cleaning up the yard like they're supposed to, and then other tenants will complain about it, so then we have to send them a notice reminding them that they're required to do it. And if they don't do it in a certain amount of time, we tell them, okay, our next step is to hire a company to come out and do this cleaning of the yard, and then we're going to charge that back to you. And usually by the time we tell them that we're going to have to charge them to have it cleaned by a company, they get out there and they clean it up right away.
I am learning something here. Okay.
All right.
Yeah.
There's one round of real estate this or that. If you've got some interesting questions that you'd like us to go through next time, let us know in the comments below. We might do some more rounds of this. There's so many ways to do real estate. It's fun to hear multiple perspectives, and we want to hear from you on what you think about these questions and other questions that you have. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, everybody. Have fun.